Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Today's a Guide to Learner. Here, this is Sriparna. Hope all of you are doing good. In my last session on education, we had already discussed one of the most interesting chapter, that is research aptitude, and we have already shared with you learner the first most important 100 MCQs on this chapter. Okay, so you all know that it is equally important in UGC Net examination paper 1 as well as PhD and MPhil enrollment. It helps to update your subject research. So research aptitude is one of the most important chapter who wants to go with a research work, obviously. So please do follow these sessions. I hope it will be a really helpful session to everyone. But today we are going to explain some topics on this chapter, and we have already discussed the first chapter according to the UGC NET syllabus, that is teaching aptitude, and some MCQs on it we have already shared with you all. So if you have missed my any previous session, so please go and check my channel where all sessions are available, and my previous sessions links are available in my description box and my first comment. So please go and check it once. I think it will be a really helpful session to everyone. So let's begin the session and move on the next slide. Here we can see some topics which we will discuss today. So first topic is application of ICT. Second topic is characteristics of the good thesis writing, and last topic, that is research ethics, which is good or bad. So let's begin the session and move on the main slide. So learner, we all know that what do you mean by a research? So research means re plus search. So again to do something. Okay, so I think this is clear, and we have already told that thing. What do you mean by a research and the different topics on research also in my previous session. So please, if you have any problem on it, so please go and check my previous sessions. All previous sessions links are available in my first comment and my description box. Okay, so here we can see the first topic, that is application of ICT in research. So what do you mean by a ICT? So ICT basically stands for Information and Communications Technology. It involves the use of computer, internet, and other modern technology. It has revolutionized all aspects of our life. It has proved to be very useful in areas like learning, higher education, research, innovation, and so on. So, ICT can be used in research for some areas. So, first area, that is collecting data. So ICT can be used for collecting data also. In case of study based on primary data, online questionnaires, surveys, forms can be used to collect data instead of collecting data manually from the respondents. It can help in saving time and money, and there will be no geographical restriction in collecting data. Data can also be collected through online interviews organized using audio or video conferencing. So that's why we all know that the important application of ICT in the research process. It has important application. Okay, so now going to the second point, that is accessing data. So secondary data can also be accessed online. So there are online portals which can be used the researchers for accessing data online. Various departments of government, institutions and organizations upload their annual reports online. So ebooks, digitized rare resources, manuscript can also be accessed online for research purposes. So we all know data dot government gov.in. This is the free online portal of the government of India, where data and documents of different ministries and departments are available online. So I think this is clear. What is the application of ICT in the data accessing process? Now going to the third point, that is storing data. So data can be saved electronically in the spreadsheet and databases. So these can be protected by password. We all know that. So there are various softwares which can used for creating spreadsheets, database like Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Access, SQL, Oracle. Data can also be saved on cloud servers. Then it can be accessed from anywhere with the login credentials. So softwares can also be used for cleaning data and removing errors. So that's why storing is important, and the ICT has important application in storing data also. So now move on to the next point, and that is processing data. So data can be processed and analyzed using different computer programs. Computers are manual of performing even complex calculations within a fraction of the second, and average, ratios, proportions, standard deviation, correlation, regressions, etc. can be found using computer programs. And some data analysis tools are SPSS, Stata, R, Nestor, etc. Okay, so now going to the next important area of application of ICT, that is interpreting data. So, computer programs can also be used for interpreting data and presenting data in the visual forms. So, data tables, graphs, charts, etc., can be used for making data presentable. So, these can be used for making comparisons, showing growth, visualizing compositions, and so on. So, I think this is clear. So, now move on to the last point, that is communicating research findings. So, ICT or information and communication technology can also be used in communicating the research findings. Many of the journals and magazines are available in the electronic form, which is easy to share. So, thesis or dissertation can also be uploaded online on the designated portals. Shodh Ganga is one of the such platforms. We have already told the what do you mean by a Shodh Ganga in my previous session of teaching aptitude. So if you have any problem, so please go and check it once. So Shodh Ganga is one of such platforms. Okay, so it is mandatory for research fellows to upload their thesis or dissertation online on Shodh Ganga. So I think this is clear what are the application of ICT in the research process. So ICT can be used in research for the following areas, that is collecting data, accessing data, storing data, processing data, interpreting data, and communicating research findings. Okay, so now move on to the next slide. So here we can see some characteristics of the good thesis writing. So thesis or dissertation writing is one of the most important area of research work, and we have already told what is the format of thesis or dissertation. Okay, so I think this is clear to everyone. So now going to the next point, that is some characteristics of the good thesis writing. So a good thesis should begin with an interesting introduction section. Okay, so it will create the first impression about the study. So it should have the ability to capture the interest of the reader. So that's why interesting introduction section is mandatory for any thesis or dissertation writing. Okay, so now going to the next point, that is appropriate heading. So appropriate after interesting introduction section, uh, appropriate headings should be given for different section and paragraphs. So it is also one of the most important characteristics of the good thesis writing. And now going to the third point, bulleted and numbered list should be used wherever necessary to present information in points. So bulleted and numbered list should also be important for presenting the information in point wise. And now going to the fourth one, that is tables and graphs. So tables and graphs should be used to illustrate data and findings effectively, and these will help in better understanding of the findings. A thesis will be considered good if it presents accurate information, and accurate information is one of the most important characteristics of good thesis writing. So, researchers should make sure that the thesis is free from any errors. After finishing the first draft, the thesis should be checked properly for spelling and grammatical mistakes. So it should also be easy to understand, and which is also important characteristics of the good thesis writing. So it should also be easy to understand, and it should not have too many technical terms. So if any technical term is used, so it should be explained properly. So properly explained, and any technical terms which is used in your thesis or dissertation, so you have to mention it properly. Okay, so that the readers do not face any problem in understanding the technical terms. And now move on to the third one, that is the abbreviation. So it should have a list of full forms of abbreviations at the beginning with the other list after index. Because abbreviation section is also important, and which is also important characteristics of the good thesis writing. And now going to the last characteristics, that is avoiding long sentence. So long sentences should be avoided as these have less clarity. So conclusions should relate to the objectives of the study, and the research questions should be answered in conclusions, and these will show that the purpose of the research has been fulfilled. So characteristics of the good, so these are the basic characteristics of the good thesis writing. So these are interesting introduction section, appropriate headings, bulleted and number list, table and graphs, accurate information, properly explained any technical terms and abbreviations, and last but not the least, that is avoiding long sentences. So all are important. uh, Keep it in mind whenever you are going to write thesis or dissertation. Okay, so now move on to the next concept, that is research ethics. Okay, so learner, basically research ethics. Ethics means moral principles. Okay, ethics means moral principles. So, what do you mean by a research ethics? So, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, ethics is basically a set of moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. Okay, so similarly, the research ethics are those moral principles that govern the research process or the behavior of the researcher. That is the basic differences between ethics and research ethics. So research ethics basically indicates some moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. But but ethics are a set of moral principles that govern a person's behavior or conducting of an activity. Okay, so these state what a researcher ought to do and what he or she should avoid. So ethics are different from the laws, as the former one, that means ethics are more informal and broader than the laws, which are legal rules. Sometimes it can be true that a legal activity is unethical or an illegal activity is always ethical. So it also needs to be considered here that these vary from time to time. What was considered unethical in the past may be ethical now, or what is unethical now can be ethical tomorrow. So basically, ethics, moral principles help in bringing out the real facts about the research problem, And also these help in reducing the chances of errors in the study. It helps in protecting the interest of respondents. So I think this is clear. What do you mean by a research ethics? So now going to the main thing, that is what are the good research ethics. So research ethics have a significant effect on the credibility, objectivity, integrity, and integrity of research also. So violation of any, that means violation of creditability, objectivity, integrity can create issues in application of the results to address the real life problems. So some following points we will discuss here. What should be so this point basically should be considered while pursuing the research work. So the first point, that is interpreting the data with honesty. So researchers should interpret their data with honesty so that the results concluded are the real results. So now going to the second point, maintaining authenticity and confidentiality. Okay, so the same article should not be sent for publication to more than one publisher, because authenticity should be maintained, and it is one of the most important research ethics also. So and it should be maintained. So there should be no duplicative publications. And now going to the second part, that is the confidentiality. So the researcher should maintain the confidentiality of the data, and it should not disclose it to anyone. So authenticity and confidentiality are two important research ethics or research moral principles. Okay, so now going to the third point, that is respect for intellectual property rights. So the researcher should have respect for intellectual property rights, because all the sources referred to should be cited properly. Clear? So now going to the next point, that is maintaining the objectivity. Okay, so researchers should try to maintain the objectivity of the researcher, do not involve the subjectivity. So always try to maintain the objectivity of the research. So that is, they should try to keep research free from their personal biases. So that indicates the real result of the research. Now going to the last point, that is open to criticism. Okay, so researchers should be open to criticism, new ideas, and feel free to share research findings, resources, etc. And one of the most important thing about good research ethics, that is researcher can also provide small gifts or incentives to the respondents as a token of appreciation after data collection. But if he indulges in any such activity before data collection, then it will be unethical. Okay, and legality of the process must be maintained. So that is, whatever legal framework is relevant to research should be obeyed. So other than this, some other ethics are researchers should be non-discriminatory and should have respect for students, colleagues, and other involved in the research process. So also research should be so that it addresses the real life problems, and it is applicable to the social settings also. So different ethical issues may emerge at different steps of the research process. So these should be resolved in the light of the above mentioned ethics, that is interpreting the data with honesty, maintaining authenticity, confidentiality, proper intellectual property rights, maintaining objectives, open to criticism, etc. So we have to discuss which is not good for research. So what should not be done by students? Okay, planner fabrications, falsification, plagiarism, etc. should be avoided in research, and these three are considered to be the violation of the research ethics. or moral principles, and these three are known as the cardinal sins of research misconduct: the fabrication, falsification, plagiarism. Okay, so first one is fabrication. So learner, do you know what do you mean by a fabrication? So suppose a researcher needed to collect data from 100 respondents, but due to some reason he has been able to collect data only from 90. So if he completes the remaining 10 data sets on his own, so then it will be known as fabrication. So it is ethically wrong, as data which doesn't exist in reality and created artificially by the researcher has been used in the study. So the interpretations based on this data will not be accurate, as data was not accurate. So I think fabrication, this is the one of the most unethical thing to the research process. Okay, so now move on to the next one. Now going to the next one, that is the falsification. Okay, so falsification means manipulating data or the research process to show results which cannot be claimed otherwise on the basis of the available data. So suppose the data shows there is a no association between time spent on video games and performance in a test, but so learner, now going to the next point, that is falsification. So what do you mean by a falsification? Falsification means manipulating the data or the research process to show results which cannot be claimed otherwise on the basis of the available data. Suppose the data shows there is a no association between time spent on video games and performance in a test, but if the researcher manipulates the data to prove his point that these are related, so then these will be a case of falsification, and this is also ethically wrong, and he is claiming results which do not exist in the reality. So that's why falsification should be avoided in the research process. Okay, because it is unethical. Now, going to the third point, plagiarism. So, one should be careful while using other person's work and should cite it properly. So, but often it is seen that people use another person's work while claiming it to be their own. So, this is a case of plagiarism. So, there are many softwares and websites available to check plagiarism. So, these check millions of documents in less than a minute and trace the original source at which the content. So, copying your work from one research to another also amounts to plagiarism. So, if you want to use any part of your own research for another research, so then it should be also mentioned in reference section. So that's why we have already told the reference section is also one of the most important section of thesis or dissertation writing. So now going to the fourth point, misuse of funds and confidential information. So misuse of funds and confidential information should not be done in the research process, because funds received from any institutions for the research should be spent only on research work, and it should not be so that the money has been spent for personal comforts and then fake bills have been submitted to claim funds, so which is also unethical to the research. Okay, so now going to the, so always confidentiality of the data should be maintained in the research process. Now going to the next point, revealing the identity of the respondents. So researchers should not reveal the identity of the respondents, because to make respondents comfortable regarding protection of their identity, so most survey forms do not have the column of name of respondent. So it should be clearly specified to the respondents if their identity details will be recorded or not. So if they know their identity will not be recorded, then they can provide data freely without any fear of being identified and their choices be revealed. So revealing the identity of the respondents is not good for research, because it is also unethical to the research process. And now Going to the last point, that is subjectivity, we have already told researchers should try to maintain the objectivity of the research. So always research should be free from subjectivity of the researcher, and that means free from any personal biases, values, norms, morals, opinions of the researcher. I think this is clear what is good for research and what is not good for research. So this indicates basically research ethics or research moral principles. I think all are clear to everyone. So, learner, we are done for the today's session. I hope this session will be very, very useful to you. If you like my session, do not forget to like, share, comment, and please do some support and subscribe my channel for getting more useful sessions. I will come again with a new session. Till then, stay tuned. Thank you to all of you. Keep commenting. Happy learning.